All right, and we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, and you'll see that there's a little activity for you on the screen, and thanks for filling that out, Kristen. I appreciate it, and it's nice to see you again. And we are going to talk a little bit about the SL2 model from the Ken Blanchard Companies. You might know it as situational leadership, and to go back a little bit in history, like we know with any smart founders, there were two gentlemen who worked together on this model and parted ways and took it in their own directions. And therefore, we now call the Blanchard version of this model SL2. But it's the same that you know and love. It's the same model that you've probably experienced before, perhaps in your career. It's one of those models that stands or withstands the test of time. So today I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we cover in the SL2 work. There's lots of different variations to this course as well. And you'll walk out of here with a little bit of your own understanding and how you can apply it in your world. So let's talk about why we're here. First and foremost, as we know, the blistering pace of change demands a different kind of leadership model. There are many out there, and there are many disparate ones, and this really has withstood the test of time, and it looks at leadership through a different lens. We're also here because you want to be effective and lead successful teams and be an effective contributor to teams, but one size does not fit all. And when people get the leadership they need when they need it, their performance accelerates, work passion increases, and your organization thrives. So I'd love to just ask you, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to figuring out how to ask your manager for what you need? So Kristen, you can come off mute or type it into chat, but when you think about your connection with your manager, what challenges do you face when it comes to asking for what you need?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think a lot of it comes down to just sort of anticipating what the organization's needs are going to be. And so balancing and making sure that what I'm asking for is aligned to that.
Yeah.
Which I think really goes back to also communication styles, right? Like when I'm talking with my manager, who's the head of the people team, right? Like I have to use a very specific communication style. She only has so much time. And so I think that's something I'm always thinking about also.
Right. Absolutely. So what I heard is what the business needs and also how to connect with your manager with styles. Absolutely. Yeah. And here's a second question. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to figuring out the right leadership style to use? Now, regardless of your level, you don't have to have direct reports, or maybe you do, but to answer this question, but when you think about, all right, I need to lead a person or a team or a project, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to figuring out, should I be really involved? Should I step back? What comes up
Yeah, I
for
mean,
you?
I think it's really about diagnosing where they're at in their development, right? And like how early on are they? How, senior are they? And I guess when I say that, what I really mean is like, do they need a lot of oversight to do the work? Do they need a lot of sort of like hands-on attention and guidance? Or do I know that they can just sort of like take, an initiative and run with it, and I can check in with them frequently or infrequently, and they just come to me when challenges arise or when they need me. So I think that like it's like, where are folks at on that spectrum?
Yeah, are you familiar with this model? It's as if
I
you
am,
know
but
what I'm going to
it's been
talk
a
about.
long time, so I needed the refresher.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. You use the word diagnosing. So really looking at that individual and what they need. It's about them and then matching your leadership style to what they need. So that's actually what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover three things, pretty high level, but I'll tell you how to get more. We're going to talk about STRAM goals and tasks. And I know that seems weird. You might have heard of SMART goals. This is it's the same, but just in a different order. We're going to talk about how to diagnose development level relative to the goal or the task. And we're going to talk about how to match the appropriate leadership style with the development level of the individual and ask for what you need to be successful. So I just want to be clear, regardless of whether you are a member of a team or you lead a team or both, a lot of us, that means both, this will work for you. So that's what we're going to cover in our time together. And what I love about SL2 is that it's not too little, it's not too much, it's just right. So the 3 skills of the SL2 model are goal setting. So we need to start there. We need to align on what needs to be done and when. We need to diagnose, so collaboratively assessing an individual's competence and commitment on a specific goal or task. So doing that together. And then match, using a variety of leadership styles comfortably to provide individuals with what they need. And you'll see up here on the side here, it's all about alignment relative to the goal or task. And it's matching the right level of leadership with what they need for that goal or task. So just a quick word about me. My name is Brooke Schiller. I'm a facilitator, keynote speaker, coach, consultant, and thought partner. I hold accreditations with the Ken Blanchard Companies, as well as Insights Discovery and the About My Brain Institute. And I go into companies and I deliver training, I design training, and I coach and speak on various aspects of leadership development. And I'm going to invite you today, we only have a half hour, but I'm going to invite you, if you can, to stay until the end, because I'm going to offer, and I'm going to tell you about how to get it, a complimentary coaching session using the LBA, or otherwise known as the Leadership Behavior Analysis Report, which measures your flexibility in using different leadership styles. So stay until the end and I'll tell you how to get that. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about goal setting. Now, I know I mentioned STRAM goals instead of SMART, and it's basically the same, it's just in a different order. So here's how we approach goal setting. We start with specific. What exactly is the goal or task, and what does a good job look like? It's outcome related to quantity. So specific, that's pretty standard. We need to make it as specific as possible. But then we're going to jump down to the T. So this is why it's STRAM. The T stands for trackable. Does the goal describe how you measure progress? Now, you might know that as time-bound as well. It's basically the same. It's the way of knowing how we're going to measure success. Next, we're going to go to relevant. Is the goal aligned with organizational goals? Will accomplishing it impact results? And you mentioned this, Kristen, in your intro, thinking about how does this connect with the larger organizational goals? Is it attainable? Is the goal realistic and reasonable? And is it motivating? Will working on the goal add or drain your energy? Now, you might be asking, what's so different? It's the same letters, just in a different order. Well, the reason why this caused a light bulb to go off with me is that, I don't know about you, but I have always thought, God, there's so much I have to write in a goal to make it SMART. I have to include all those letters. Am I going to write a paragraph for every goal? And then what happens if it changes? The STRAM format, or the order, really clarified that for me, because all you're going to write in the actual goal is the S and the T. That's it. The goal is specific and trackable. Then the R, the A, and the M is what you talk about with your manager or your direct reports. So that's in the conversation. That's where you're going to discuss, is this relevant? How is it? Help me connect the dots between my goal and the bigger picture. Is it attainable? Am I in comfortable stretch mode, or is this too much? And is it motivating? Really getting into the heart of, is this exciting? Does this feel like something I want to do? And I will acknowledge that there are times we're going to have to work on goals that aren't necessarily motivating, like get us excited to jump out of bed every morning. Like, for instance, I'll just give an example. of filling out your expense report using the process, the procedure, the form, and the timeline. No one really likes to do that, but they like getting their money back. So motivating, we see it through a different lens. But in summary, the reason why we take it in this order is the S and the T are what you write. The R, the A, and the M are what you discuss. So this was really a life-changing moment for me when I thought about it in terms of this order. So let me just ask you, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Kristen, but if you could just think about for a minute, how smart are your goals? When you think about either the goals you set with your people or your goals right now, you can think about either or both. If you were to put them on the smartometer, how smart would you put it? Where would you measure yourself? You can type it into chat or just come off mute.
Yeah, I'd say probably around a 70.
Okay.
We use OKRs in our org, and so I feel like we do a pretty good job with the S and the T, writing them out.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the other three as discussion points and just making sure that, you're sort of using those as your North Star to like kind of have that context for what it is that you're working on and why. And I'm not sure that we talk about that. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good estimation on your part. There's always room to improve. And yeah, I agree. Thinking about what we talk about in the R, the A, and the M is so useful. And it's really changed how I set goals for myself and with others. So that's skill number one, goal setting. The second skill is diagnosing development level. Now, diagnosing is collaboratively assessing an individual's competence and commitment on a specific goal or task. And a development level, a person's development level is determined by two factors. Those factors are competence, so demonstrated goal or task specific knowledge and skills, and or demonstrated transferable knowledge and skills. That's how we assess competence. And you'll see that the key word here is demonstrated. Okay. The second factor is commitment, our motivation and confidence. Confidence, not competence. Okay. So a couple of things I want to say here. First of all, these words, competence and commitment, might bring up some perceptions or some feelings. To think about it, a lot of times I find people will think about it like, I'm either competent or I'm not. And it doesn't feel good to say I'm not competent, or I'm committed or I'm not. It doesn't feel good to say I'm not committed, but we're not saying that. We're just looking at it on a continuum of demonstrated knowledge and skills to show how competent we are, and motivation and confidence are the two factors or the two ingredients to show commitment. And I called out a key point here. Now, confidence is not the same as competence. Okay, so often I think we get confused. Someone is really excited about starting something. They're confident, they're excited, they're showing that, but they haven't demonstrated the knowledge and skills yet. The natural part of growth and development, but we have to separate those two things out when we're thinking about evaluating someone's competence and commitment. So let me walk you through the steps of the development levels. So I'm going to start over here on the right side where it says D1. And just so you know, the D's stand for development level and the numbers for the actual level. So development level 1, this is where you are brand new. Maybe you're coming into it, you've never done it before, or you've done it somewhere else, but you're new to this company. You have what we call low competence because you haven't had a chance to demonstrate it yet, but you're highly committed. You're excited. You don't know what you don't know. You want to get going and you're really energized to get started. This might be someone who's brand new to your company, for example, or brand new to the task at your company because perhaps they just started. They've done it elsewhere, but they haven't shown you yet that they can do it at your company. Next, we'll move over to development level 2. By this point, they've gained some competence, but they still have low commitment. This is where now they realize what they don't know, and it doesn't feel great. So I've gained some competence because I've spent some time in it, and now I realize, ugh, I don't like this. This is harder than I thought. So their commitment is low. So it goes from high, yay, to I'm not sure. And it's not necessarily a fun place to be in. As we continue over to the left, we get to development level 3, where we continue to gain competence because we've been doing this for a while. And we have what we call variable commitment. So it's kind of a little bit all over the place. Like they're committed, and then their motivation and confidence is high, but then they might have a setback. They might question. They might just need a little encouragement. So that's why we call it variable. And then D4, we have high competence and high commitment. So it's high, they can do it on their own. They can perhaps teach others, most likely be able to teach others. So I mentioned earlier the perception sometimes people have around the words competence and commitment. What I really like is that we talk about it in terms of developing a new skill, to developed. So if you see it on the context of developing, I think it's a little easier to swallow. People see themselves on that continuum a little bit more. So there are 4 development levels, and those development levels are goal or task specific. So just to be clear, I can't say this strongly enough, people aren't development levels. People may be at any or all of these development levels any given day because it's dependent on the goal or the task. So if I just asked you a few questions and you thought about it yourself, Kristen, where would you say your development level is if I asked you to throw a dinner party for 12 people?
I would probably say somewhere between a D1 and a D2.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And then what would you say, do you have a favorite hobby or something you do in your free time?
Yeah, I teach yoga.
Okay, so if I were to ask you, what do you think your development level is with yoga? What would you say?
A D4, definitely.
Yeah, because you're a teacher, you're teaching it. So that was really quick and dirty there, but you saw that relative to the 2 different things, you're at 2 different development levels. So I'm just going to walk you through the development levels and just kind of give you some examples on what it might look like. When you are a development level 1, low competence, high commitment, you might be at first kind of discouraged and frustrated because you want to get in and you're like wondering what's the holdup, but you're eager to learn. You might start to notice some confusion and your performance isn't consistent yet because you're just getting started. You're learning, you're inexperienced, and that's okay. You're enthusiastic and you're new to the goal or task. Development level 2 is low to some competence and low commitment. So you are seeing inconsistent performance, learning. You might see yourself, as a little bit confused or discouraged and frustrated because now you know what you don't know. Development level 3, moderate to high competence and variable commitment. You're not always confident, but you spend more time in confident zone. You make productive contributions, but you might find that it gets a little boring. I've been doing this for a while now, and you're generally skillful. And development level 4, you have high. You are self-reliant, you're consistently competent, self-assured, and accomplished, just like when you're out there teaching yoga, Kristen, for sure. So you might be able to relate to that. So you could see as we progressed, the person progressed on that task, and the different things that we checked off here changed. And as a reminder, in summary, development level is goal and task specific. I can't state that strongly enough, and it's really important to remember. It's one of the things that I find comes up most often when I teach a workshop on this is people are still stuck in, well, I only hire G4s. Well, let's think about that language a little bit and see how they might have different development levels given the goal or task. So I asked you, you did this a little bit just a moment ago, but just thinking about the task or goal, think about something that you are doing at work right now and what development level you might be on that task. And you can do this, you can either type this into the chat or you can just do this on your own, but I'd like you to walk out of here at the end of this webinar with a high level diagnosis or a little bit more on that. So think about a goal or task at work and try to give your best guess on what development level you think you are. Now, when we have diagnosed our development level and we've talked about that with our manager, or the manager has diagnosed our development level, there are two sets of leadership behaviors that we need in differing amounts. So directive leadership behaviors is the first set. So directive leadership behaviors are things that shape and control what, how, and which things are done. So when we are being directive, or when we're asking for directive behaviors, we are setting SMART goals, showing and telling how, establishing timelines, identifying priorities, clarifying roles, developing action plans, and monitoring and tracking performance. When we are being supportive, these are actions that develop mutual trust and respect, resulting in increased motivation and confidence, the two factors that lead to commitment. So we are great listeners. We are facilitating self-reliant problem solving. We're asking for input, providing rationale, acknowledging and encouraging, sharing information about the organization, and sharing information about ourselves. So direction and support are the two leadership behaviors that we offer or we ask for in varying degrees to be able to match leadership style with our development level needs. So that's what we're getting into in our third and final point. What are the leadership styles? So when I am a D1, I need an S1 style. So I need high direction and low support. And the reason why I need high direction is because I haven't shown that I have the competence yet. So I need direction on how to do it. And I need lower support because I'm excited. Remember, I'm brand new. I'm excited to get started. So we call that directing style. And as a reminder, low, whenever it says low does not mean no. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we're not offering it. We're just giving lower amounts, because when I am a D1, direction feels like support because that's really what I need. It meets my needs. When I'm offering the S2 style and I'm matching it with the D2 development level, I am giving high direction and high support. I'm giving both because competence is still relatively low, and now that person has hit that valley of, wow, this is harder than I thought it would be, so they need support. We call this coaching. However, again, your perceptions might be at play here with the word coaching. Essentially, you're coaching and leading the whole way through, but we call this coaching because you're giving both high direction and high support. When we are offering S3, we are supporting. We're giving high supportive behaviors to match their variable commitment. And at this point, we don't have to give a lot of directive because we know they know how to do it. They just might need a little encouragement from you. And when we're offering the S4 style, we're delegating. We are low support and low direction because they know how to do it. You in your yoga class wouldn't like it if someone was coming in and saying, all right, do it this way, do it that way. Putting their hands on you and showing you how to do poses. You are on your own and you can lead that class. So again, low does not mean no. And here is how the two pieces come together. So you can see on the bottom, the development levels, they're color coded to match. S1 is what you provide for D1, S2 for D2, so on and so forth. So you can see how this is built is on the left-hand side, the axis is supportive behaviors, and underneath is directive behaviors. And the idea here is that we are matching. So what I'd like you to do is think about that task or goal that you thought of just a moment ago at work, and think about what leadership style might you need. And just write it down wherever you're taking notes. So you've done a few things now. You've identified a goal or task at work. You've figured out what you think your development level is. And now you know what to ask for because you know whatever development level is, the leadership style that it aligns to. So that's what I wanted you to be able to walk away with today. And you can do that on any goal or task that you set your mind to. So just imagine for a moment that you were able to match needs, develop people, develop yourself, and the benefit that would bring to your people. That's the benefit of the SL2 model and all of the offerings in the Ken Blanchard suite. And I know that this is a little bit of an eye chart, but these are all the different things that we are able to do. And thanks, Kristen. I know you've got to hop. So just so you know, in a moment, I'll talk about what you'll receive as a result of participating in today's session. So really quickly, here are all of the different things that the Ken Blanchard model is able to address. Everything from improving retention and engagement to boosting interpersonal productivity, creating a culture of collaboration. I won't read all these to you, but you can replay this recording and see all the different offerings that we're able to bring from the Ken Blanchard suite. Last but not least, let's talk about actions and next steps. I would like you to think about your goals and assessing whether or not they are SMART. Choose one and determine your development level. And then make a game plan for asking for the leadership style you need. And you can do all of that on your own, but if you need help, I'm offering 3 complimentary leadership behavior analysis assessments, LBAs, and all you need to do is contact me by the end of March, and let's do it. Let's get it done and have a conversation in the month of April. So I'm going to leave up my QR code. You can just scan this with your phone. This is how you can connect with me to arrange to get your free LBA and to set up a coaching call with me. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for joining today or listening to the replay. And I hope that we are in touch soon.